Hi, I'm Rob.
As am I. I'm a Rob too.
Yeah, and welcome to Press X. And just before we get started, please do hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell. We do need all the help we can get because we are still growing. Today, we're talking about things that we've discovered through games. Not things that we've learned from games. I want to specify that.
That's another video.
That's a different video entirely. Well, other things that we discovered through games that we weren't aware of and that we now love.
It doesn't feel like it's easy now, but once upon a time, personally, I think it maybe should have got older. It's hard to discover things when you get older. But I'll lead the way in because I have two for this. But the first one, I discovered that what my taste in music was, thanks to video games.
Okay.
Because before I really got into playing games, I was like any kid really. You listened to what everybody else listened to. You didn't have a mind of your own. And all the kids say, "Oh, do you like this latest number one?" I said, "Yeah, I like this latest number one."
So
really
you grew
good.
up listening to a lot of Kylie Minogue and stuff like that.
That was my generation, Rob. I can't remember what my generation was really, and that's not important. But yeah, I played Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. I don't know how you describe it. It's like one of those hallelujah moments of, this is what music's like. This is amazing. And I would never have discovered that otherwise. It gave me... Because I never really liked music before that. So that really opened the door for me. And what my music taste is now, it's still defined by what that door opened. Stop smiling, you smug little face.
No, do you know why I'm smiling? What's that character behind the door called in the IT crowd?
What, Noel Fielding's character?
Yeah, you sound exactly like him when he discovered Cradle of Filth.
Well, maybe. That's Cradle of Filth are terrible, though.
I know, but...
I do like black metal, just not that one. It's just they opened the world of music to me. They show me that music is much deeper, much more colourful, much more imaginative, much more vivid. And there's music from other countries. I mean, the idea when you were 15 years old or 14 years old that there was this band from Japan that you'd love, it's like, wow, that's a door open there. And that's continued to follow me through life, really, when I'm looking at music. It's all because of Tony Hawk's, specifically, I'd say, Pro Skater 2.
Yeah, that's fair, because a lot of the bands that I listened to for a while, I was listening to because of video games, because I'd actually heard their music in something like Gran Turismo or Tony Hawk's.
Gran Turismo. Well, I'd say Grand Theft Auto as well. Grand Theft Auto, the new ones, has become amazing for that.
Exactly.
It really has. The vast radio stations, the catalogue of radio stations, it's like there's something there for everybody to find what they're like in music.
Well, the radio stations have always been a part of the Grand Theft Auto games.
It's become much more prominent now, though, I think.
Well, it was always a part of the Grand Theft Auto games, going back to the top-down Grand Theft Auto games.
Yeah. I mean,
it was just
the PlayStation 2 era ones were kind of like Hero's greatest hit selection of this era. So, like, Vice City was Hero's load of 80s music. Was it Vice City?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Vice City. No, was that the one with... That's Miami, isn't it? The Vice City one, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, it is. But that's my point. These games are great for discovering music, and I don't think certain titles get enough credit for that.
Yeah, one of the things because I've always liked classical music, right? I've always liked classical music. Hang on, you'll understand where I'm going with this, right? One of the bizarre things that I've found happening with a lot of people I know who play video games, especially when they play games like Skyrim and stuff like that, they listen to the soundtracks.
Would you call Skyrim classical music, though? I don't know whether I would.
The actual soundtrack for Skyrim involves a lot of classical music.
It does, but it feels a bit different.
What do you think of when I say classical music? Do you think Beethoven, Chopin, Mozart, that sort of thing?
No, it's much more. I mean, I can't remember what it is, but the one piece of classical music that I love, I can't remember what it's called now. But if you watch the movie Asylum, it's an Amicus movie. There's a bit of music playing when he walks up the stairs, and it's like gothic horror nightmare, and that's classical. That's stuff I love. But yeah.
Okay, maybe classical music is the wrong term to use. Orchestral music, I should say.
Classical music has this sort of upper middle class, last night at the proms idea when you say that word, isn't it?
No.
To a lot of people, it does.
No.
does. But let's move past that.
I've never once thought of classical music like that. I've always thought classical music is just music. But that's just a difference of perspective,
Yes, it
right?
is. As in, my perspective is right and yours is wrong. But go on.
All I'm saying is that it's a bizarre phenomenon that music is starting to become this more and more prominent thing that people are discovering now, and that video game music is becoming this thing that orchestras are doing now.
They've been doing that a while, like live performances of Final Fantasy scores and stuff like that, yeah.
And how do you do an orchestral version of the Super Mario theme?
I imagine it's Shigeru Miyamoto on that keyboard from Big.
I would pay to see that, actually.
And he's dressed up as Mario. Because I could see him doing that.
Yeah, I could see him doing that as well.
He's the goofy.
And like I said, I would pay to see that.
It's a goofy sort. I think he'd do that, yeah.
But that's my point. They do orchestral versions of these things, which people are starting to discover just because they like the music in video games, which then leads them on to other types of music.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how powerful that actually is.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, it's weird because I actually discovered an entire series of books through a game.
A bit more specific, but sure.
Right. Back in the Dreamcast days, there was a game called The Dragon Riders of Pern. Okay, and I had it, and I thought, okay, this is a bit weird. And the blurb made reference to books by Anne McCaffrey. And I'd never read any books by Anne McCaffrey up to that point.
Sure.
Right? I'd seen them in the bookshops with the dragons and everything like that. Never read them. But then I played Dragon Riders of Pern, and I thought, okay, I need to know more about this. Is this just a standard dragon fantasy world or something like that? Because I thought the game was interesting. Complicated, but interesting. So I went and started reading the books because I discovered I didn't know the books until then.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't know that the books, I'd seen them, but I didn't know anything about them. So that was my first introduction to the world of Pern and the dragons and everything like that. Then I'm reading these books and finding out that this isn't a fantasy, it's actually a science fiction.
What, so like Star Wars isn't sci-fi, it's actually fantasy?
Yeah, Star Wars isn't sci-fi, it's fantasy. Well, it's science fantasy rather than science fiction, whereas the Dragon Riders of Pern it's fantasy for a lot of the books. It looks like medieval fantasy, right? But then you get to the last books and you discover that the entire thing was science fiction all the way through.
Okay, I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how I can really follow on from that, to be honest.
We're talking about things we discovered through games, and I didn't even, I had no interest in these books because, it just seemed like some kind of generic author churning out book after book after book. So, to my surprise, I actually enjoyed the Pern series, and then ended up reading everything she wrote.
I'm not really sure how I can inject myself into this. Do you want to go in the corner and spend some time on your own and just talk about half an hour about books that nobody else has heard of? Or are we all good?
No, I'm fine.
Yeah. Okay. Have you got any others that are a bit more broad? Because my two are really broad. It's a really specific book series. But anyway, we'll look back around to yours so you can maybe try to find a bit more of a broad one. But my second one is horror.
Okay,
I've not always liked horror. In fact, as a kid, I was terrified of it because I don't know what it was. You know those scenes in zombie movies or whatever where somebody is torn in half and you see all the guts come out? I walked in with my dad watching a horror movie. I must have been about 6 years old. And I saw a scene like that. And that was way too young for something like that. And I also, here's another, I wasn't much older than that, but it was back when Channel 4 in the UK took some risks on their late night movie programming. But I'm going to use the three words, Tetsuo Drill Penis, and the age...
And did you watch Tetsuo the Iron Man or the Body Hammer?
I can't remember. I was 8 years old and I saw that. So between those two...
You watched that?
I didn't watch it.
Old?
It was just on TV. It was flicking. It was like,
it would have been Tetsuo the Iron Man.
Horrible. And I was terrified of horror for a very, very, very long time. I didn't engage with it at all. I completely ignored it. And that was fair enough because that was sort of mid-90s. And mid-90s is not a golden era for horror.
No.
Because I grew up and Scream was the hot horror prospect. It wasn't until after that when I discovered horror through video games, through stuff like Silent Hill. And I played many of the franchises on the PlayStation 2. I couldn't list them off name by name because there's just too many. It was a golden era for the survival horror and the horror in general.
Yeah.
But it was through that I discovered horror. I discovered that I actually liked the stuff. Because my instant exposure to horror was super gory.
Yeah.
Where that's all I saw. I just saw the gore. Whereas these video games came about, especially Silent Hill. Silent Hill it's such an influential game for me. Silent Hill showed atmosphere. It showed real skin-crawling dread. And for me, video games capture that when they're doing it well. The sort of skin-crawling dread of watching some random actor do it on screen is one thing, but the skin-crawling dread of you controlling that character is an entirely different experience.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that helped me discover horror. And I don't think any movie has really captured that sort of that dread of originally playing Silent Hill 1 and 2. Because they're really formative experiences for me.
Yeah. Kind of in the similar vein, but not quite. No. This is something I discovered about myself.
Oh, here we go.
Okay. Now, you know I like real-time strategies.
Yes.
Okay. But back when I started playing games, they didn't have real-time strategies. We had...
what was that, like 1940s?
Sometimes I want to hit you.
You're all right.
Anyway... Because I've been playing games for a long, long time, and I played games through the 80s and the 90s and all the way up to now. And my first introduction to the God Sims like Populous and stuff like that, I really liked those games because it was just yourself in the game, and whether you were successful or not, it was all down to you. But then they started introducing kind of the video game version of Risk, and there was Civilization and various things like that. And then it all got competitive because you could go online and play against other people. And that's when I discovered that I am a real pain in the ass when it to a lot of people. And a lot of people are probably going to hate my attitude when it comes to that sort of thing. Okay. And I should never be a general in the military because I had like 3 main tactics when it came to real-time strategies. And the thing is, up until this point, I've basically been convinced that for my entire life that I'm just a nice guy. Right?
Everybody likes to think they're a nice person.
Yeah. And then discovering that I'm really not deep down inside.
This is one of those things, isn't it? Here is a game with a morality system. What you go for first, pretty much the sort of person you are.
Yeah, and discovering from a real-time strategy that I am an utter tool. Right, 3 main tactics I've got. Number 1, if I can't kill them early in the game, I'll basically do my second tactic, which is basically build walls of towers and decimate them whenever they come to attack. So literally, I was building like towers instead. Because in real-time strategies you can build walls.
Yeah.
I was building towers as walls, and then having a gap, and then a second set of towers as a wall, and then a third set of towers as a wall.
What was this game you're referring to when you did this in?
This was in every single real-time strategy, from Total Annihilation to Age of Empires.
Oh, so you got a very specific wall of death.
Yeah, I basically find a narrow pass and just have this it was basically just run the gauntlet all the way through. If you survive till the end, I'll kill you off with this massive army.
You must love that. I don't know what it was called, but you talked about it recently. But that game where you play the bad guy and you got a secret base.
Yeah,
what was that called again? Because it was at the PC Gamer Show, the new one, wasn't it?
Oh, you mean Evil Genius?
Yeah. That's you. Yeah, that's you, T then.
See, that's what I mean when I say I am a supervillain.
So that was number 1, then your strategy.
But the final strategy, and this was basically my strategy to end all, was if I can't have it, no one will.
Oh, that's just a spoilt child. That is.
Yeah, but when you apply it to a real-time strategy, can you imagine what I'd be like if I was an actual general?
So basically Napoleon, then?
No. Worse.
Oh, like Ming the Merciless.
Actually, it was more like Ming the Merciless.
I was trying to go Mongolian. His name's on the tip of my tongue.
Genghis Khan.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think of, but I got completely wrong.
It was more like Ming the Merciless.
What? So you painted yourself green?
No, Have you seen Flash Gordon?
Not in a long time, Rob. All I remember is basically
Brian Blessed going, Gordon's alive!
yeah, that, and the guy in the suit, not the suit, the American football outfit, being really bad at acting. That's all I remember from that, and the song. I don't remember a lot about it.
Don't play me at real-time strategies.
You must be terrible at tabletop games as well, then.
Oh, yeah, it's worse, because I can actually see my opponent.
I like being like games. What they call, I actually call them Games Master because I don't know the world of like Dungeons and Dragons.
Dungeon Masters.
You must be bad, I think that's what they're called, but you must be bad at that too.
Well, I've been banned from being Dungeon Master by literally all of my mates who play D&D.
That's a bad sign.
No, it's because it kind of carried on from the real-time strategies, and I would literally put them through the ringer. Very few people ever survived one of my adventures.
That's just you're a sadist, Rob. You're a real sadist.
Yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable with it now, but you know, when you're when you've just started going to university and you discover that you're not as nice as you think you are.
Well, if you're going to discover that you're into sadist stuff, I think university is the best time to do that experimenting.
See, I didn't know about that side of things. I came much later.
Yes, but on that note, I think, this is a sort of topic which can be returned to because games do bring a lot into your life that you just wouldn't otherwise, you know, and I think that's a refreshing quality about it. But we'll come back to this one when the time is right for it. But if you do have anything you learnt about yourself, if you learnt out that you were like the other side of sadism too, thanks to games, by all means,
never make me a general.
Comment below, or whatever you discovered about games, do comment below, get in a conversation. But until next time, thanks for watching.